So this is a guided, gentle movement practice. Before you begin, perhaps just taking note where you are right now, where you are on the space, and perhaps really deliberately choosing a space and a place where you can do this practice. Maybe taking a seat, because this is, even though it's generating some movement, you can do this practice in a seated posture, but you can also do it in a standing posture. So nevertheless, perhaps right now, simply noticing where your body is making a connection with the surface below your body. So if you're noticing your feet, you might be aware of the surface below your feet. Possibly by looking to your feet, if that's available as well, just to taking note of where they are. It may also help you to notice your feet. Another way to notice your feet might be to move your feet. And if that is useful for you, you might move your feet against the surface below. Moving your feet against the surface below your feet as a way of noticing your feet. You can also move your toes, you can lift your heels as another way to feel your feet. Whatever works best. And then also, if you have the surface underneath any of your lower body or your seat, you might be aware of the surface, so underneath your lower body. Maybe once again using your eyes to look at your lower body. And if that is useful for you, possibly by moving, so you could shift from side to side, maybe shifting the body from side to side, using the sit bones, maybe sort of shifting the weight from one sit bone to the other. You could also lift your feet off the floor, so that brings in some movement into the legs. So maybe noticing the connection of your legs with the surface as well, but also noticing that movement. Being aware of the surface behind or underneath your upper body. Again, depending on whether you're seated or laying down or standing. So that could be the back of your chair, maybe the surface of the floor, or any cushion behind or underneath. And you might notice your upper body's connection with the surface behind you, maybe by moving your upper body, again bringing in some movement. And if you don't have a surface in connection with your upper body, then you might notice your upper body in space, possibly by moving. Again, maybe side to side through your body, possibly moving forward, leaning forward, and then moving back through your upper body, leaning backwards a little bit. So you could choose whether you might want to move your upper body. And if you choose to move your upper body, you might choose to move your upper body from side to side as well. Alternating it with moving forwards and backwards, and leaning over to one side, and then leaning over to the other side. And maybe noticing the connection of your upper body to the surface behind you or underneath. Or maybe noticing the upper body again in space. And noticing the connection. And you might be aware of your neck and your head in space. Or if your head is or neck is against or connecting to a surface, so taking note of that. Welcoming to move your chin from one side to the other. It's like saying no. Possibly moving your chin from one side to the other. And if you move your chin from one side to the other, noticing that you are in charge of the speed at which you might be moving from one side to the other. Notice that you are in charge of the speed, the pace, how fast or slow you're moving from one side to the other. And you could move your head in a different direction, maybe through a nodding shape, saying yes, possibly by bringing your chin to your chest. And maybe by lifting your chin and dropping the head a little bit backwards, if that feels right. Simply lowering your chin to your chest and then lifting your chin in the opposite direction. And if you're not practicing a nodding shape with your head, then you might notice that the range of movement, how much you move your head up and down, or whether you move your head up and down at all, is all up to you, or whether you move it from side to side. It is really up to you. In your own time, feel free to return your head to facing forward shape, if that is useful for you, and letting the head rest on the neck. And now maybe noticing your shoulders, possibly by rolling your shoulders backwards or rolling your shoulders forwards. Maybe rolling your shoulders backwards, possibly rolling them forwards. And you might notice the sensations that are generated as you're moving the shoulders. But again, remember, it's your choice whether you want to move them or not. And if you would like to include your arms in your shoulder rolling, you're welcome to bring your hands towards your shoulders, or just form a kind of a T shape, bring the arms up shoulder level, and then continuing rolling the shoulders backwards, forwards. This is your choice whether you go backwards or forwards. Being aware and mindful that you always have the choice of how you would like to move in any of these shapes or offered movements, or whether you want to even move at all. And anytime you can come out of any of these movements for any reason, this is your practice. So any reason at any time you can change the way you might be practicing. You can come out of the movement, of the stretch anytime. You can modify, you can change accordingly, whatever suits your experience. And whenever you are ready, then you're welcome to bring your arms back down, maybe possibly placing your hands on your legs. And as you're doing so, you might be aware of your hands on your legs, and you might notice your hands on your legs. So one way to notice your hands on your legs would be to take a look at your hands, if that's useful for you. Another way might be to move your hands on your legs. So you could move your hands forwards and backwards on your legs. Possibly noticing what you notice in regards to sensations in your hands. So you might be aware of sensations in your hands. And as you're noticing the sensations in your hand, you will be able to locate the sensations. You might be noticing what you do and get a good sense of your hands. So maybe then perhaps releasing the movement and letting the hands simply rest on your legs. Or if you are in a different position on the floor, on the surface, or alongside the body. And as we are about to close this short movement practice, we're possibly closing in the way that is most useful for you. Maybe you might like to practice one of the movements again, or just simply taking a rest in this very moment, and perhaps shifting the focus onto the breath and feeling the air flowing in and out of the nostrils. And if that feels useful or appropriate, then also perhaps finding a way of appreciating your practice, maybe thanking yourself for showing up, for committing to yourself, and also knowing that this practice is a direct contribution to your well-being. So you might want to just spend a few moments to notice how you're feeling, any difference compared to the beginning. What was it like during the practice, the quality of attention and awareness, and to now, and maybe just making a mental note or writing down your observations, your observed experience before you're proceeding and beginning the next, whatever that is for you.